Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to game number 4 between Brandeis and Harvard University. And yes, this could actually potentially be the last game in the series. Currently, Harvard is leading 3-0. And let's just bring up the nameplate. And I accidentally hit the back button, but that's okay. Just brings us back to the beginning of the game. And it's an opportunity for you, my lovely viewers, to listen to me talk about nothing. So, playing for Harvard University, we do have Tony Jing, aka Tony Cheese. To be completely honest, anytime I see Tony, my mind automatically fills in Stark, just because the movie was really, really good, and Robert Downey Jr. is kind of awesome. Whereas on the other side of the map, it's not the little one, it's the yellow one, playing as the yellow Terran, Protoss. I've been around the block. I do know what the races are for this game. The yellow one playing for Brandeis University, aka Kelvin Tang. So now that I've sufficiently embarrassed myself with not one but two mistakes, barely a minute into the game, how about we actually get in and see what's going on? So it does look like we have Chrono going down on the probes. We have a PVT. Both players do know that PVT on Tal'Daram Altar doesn't look like we are going to have a close position, which hopefully we will actually see a macro game out of this series, because so far all of the games have been so quick. It's been impossible to watch a nice, decent length game. And if we don't get a nice macro game on Tal'Daram Altar cross position, then I don't know how we will ever see a macro game ever again in the future at all, ever, period. So both players scouting around right now, neither one going for an expansion first in that wide open natural. Instead, just opting to play it safe, get out the gateway and the barracks first, adding on another pylon, continuing to chrono boost out the probes, and there we see the probe scouting the close position first. Does know that it is safe for now, and the Marine is actually going to get out in time to deny this probe some vital scouting information. So we see Tony Cheese actually is grabbing one gas, so we could be seeing some macro play. It really just depends on what Tony Cheese is going to do. And I know in the last game I talked about the emblems briefly and then didn't bring it up again. And uh-oh, here we do see the probe. It is going to run to the Marine. Will it be able to get by? No, he just decides to fall back, get out of there. But Tony Cheese on this barracks, we can just zoom in. You can see it does have the Mobius reactor on the emblem. So the Mobius reactor, I believe that's for either 750 or 1,000 Terran wins. So Tony Cheese definitely very comfortable with ladder play. And let's see if we can find the emblem. Where are the emblem on these buildings? No, we actually have the SCV scout getting in. The cyber core is finished, and instead of seeing a stalker, we see another zealot on the way with warp gate being chronoed. That's a bit interesting. I believe the yellow one only took one gas, so it does look like instead of going for that stalker play, he is just going to be nice and defensive and get that sentry and throw down a natural pretty quickly. And oh man, look at that SCV just juking those zealots. It is so fast compared to the zealots. I believe zealots with speed gain a passive speed boost that isn't in the description. Oh man, look at that juke. Excellent juke, just scouting, seeing everything, taking one more hit though before finally dancing away. Maybe will he try to run away? Oh, now that the sentry is out, it will be able to scare it away. So yes, there we do see it does manage to finally leave, and the zealot's actually even still chasing it across the map. We had a bunker go down for Tony Cheese. He did grab a second gas and factory with a tech lab, so we are going to be seeing some Banshees, which is pretty awesome. We actually already have a probe hidden behind the grass over here. It looks like the probe is just going to scout the natural to make sure. Oh no, building a forward pylon. This is actually really bad for the yellow one, because the flight path for that Banshee can either be to the left or to the right, and if it is down, or excuse me, to the right or down, and if it does decide to go down, it will run right into the pylon. But just looking at the starport so far, it is set to the bunker, so that is defensive. Does look like the Banshee might pass over it, which would be good, and it looks like we do have a little bit of a push going on. 2 warp gates, grabbing a second gas, continuing to make probes and get that nexus. This, oh, SCV Oh man, I missed my hotkey. That was my third mistake of the game. More and more units being warped in. Oh man, this could actually be a pretty scary push. The Banshee, however, is just about to finish. There are 4 Marines in a bunker and 4 Marines behind it with a siege tank about to come out. Siege tank has not started, so it does look like Tony Cheese will be able to hold this pretty well. And oh, dropping a Guardian Shield. Looks like he does just want to try to break it. The Zealots go up to tank the damage. That bunker is getting dangerously low. The Banshee is now out. The Banshee needs to take out the Sentry, get rid of that Guardian Shield, and the Banshee is about to fall. Oh, the Banshee goes down. The Sentry, however, also does fall, and is currently a healthy number of Marines versus 1 Siege Tank, and with the SCVs to repair the Siege Tank, it does look like Tony Cheese will be able to hold indefinitely. More and more units being warped in for the Yellow One, but that push relatively ineffective. He did lose a Sentry, but he also got the Banshee for Tony Cheese, so he did deny that harassment. We do have an SCV scout running around. I know we're missing a little bit of action, and SCV did die. And oh man, now the Stalkers are running away. They need to be careful. One of them getting pretty low. Needs to be microed to the back a little bit better. And those SCVs continuing to repair the bunker. It is actually canceled, and the Marines are falling apart a little bit. The Zealots are now there to tank the damage. There is another Banshee to continue putting out more and more damage. Let's drop the UI so we can watch this a little bit. 2 Siege Tanks, however, should be able to clean this up. A lot of SCVs going down, and oh man, some great focus fire on that Siege Tank, but it isn't going to be enough, as the Siege Tank's regular DPS is still super high compared to tier 1 units. 25 damage versus armored, which is in fact Stalkers. So that Banshee, let's see, the Banshee did live, did only get 1 kill, but if we take a look at the workers killed tab, that's where we're really going to see 6 workers killed. Oh, so I suppose the Yellow One actually is just a little bit ahead. If we take a look at the income, we can see the Yellow One is leading in both minerals and gas, but as far as army supply, it does look like Tony Cheese is just barely ahead by about 400 minerals and 200 gas, so I suppose that would be those 2 siege tanks. Siege tech is now finished, so any more future pushes shall be repelled. We have an observer out, which usually indicates a robotics bay, getting out those immortals, adding on the robotics bay, and another gateway up to 4 now, soon to be 5, where we're going to stalker for defense in the mineral line. I really like that. Understanding that not every single unit has to be with your army all the time, every time, and already we see a Colossi on the way, and oh boy, here comes the Banshee. It doesn't have cloak, it's going to go right into the mineral line. Let's see how many kills it can rack up. It is at 1, and there is 2. That is 1 probe. 3 probes, and about to see 4. There's 4, and there's 5. And alrighty, that Banshee manages to get 5 kills before finally being repelled. So as far as income, both players are now even, though the Yellow One did have higher income for slightly longer. And oh boy, it looks like the Yellow One is going to try to push out a little bit. I'm not sure if that's such a good idea, is only having that first Colossi rally across the map now. And there we go, the Colossi needs to be with the army, needs to be protected. And oh boy, Tony Cheese scouts forward. He does see that forward pylon and does manage to take it out. As far as this army, this could actually be a really scary push. 2 Banshees that need to be repaired, and a lot of Marines and a siege tank, couple siege tanks. If he sets himself up on the low ground beneath the natural, Tony Cheese could really put himself in a great position. And oh boy, there are no defenses set up. It does look like the Yellow One is actually pulling out of position. So here we go. Tony Cheese is pushing forward, and the Yellow One might actually walk right into him. He does see the army out of position. The siege tanks are unsieged. The stalkers now get in. The siege tanks are firing on the army. The Colossi trying to do a lot of damage, but focus firing the siege tanks. And the siege tanks are focus firing the Colossi. The Colossi falls, and the army for the Yellow One suddenly falls to pieces. 1 more Colossi caught out of position. They do not yet have range, so they are relatively ineffective against the siege tank Marine push timing. Great timing from Tony Cheese, and now he's moving in with the siege tanks to siege up on that natural. That is such a bad position for the Yellow One. The assimilator is going to go down. The probes are now taking fire. So many probes are going to die in this attack. I almost feel bad. And the assimilator is about to fall. I'm not sure. Oh, another probe continuing to go down. Just the probes constantly falling anytime they mine farther away, and it does look like the Yellow One might actually lose his natural. The siege tanks can fire on that Nexus, so what we're probably going to see is Tony Cheese try to take down the Nexus and then just immediately fall back. And oh man, he's got bunkers set up. He has extra siege tanks now in position. This could be really dangerous. Let's see if the Yellow One is going to try to engage. The Immortal leads, soaks up the siege tank fire, but the Zealots are now getting in there to try to soak some more damage. Don't know if it's going to be enough. One bunker does fall. The Colossi they do not have the range upgrade yet. They look like they may be able to clean this up, but there are so many siege tanks. It's just not enough. One Colossi falls, a second falls, and the Nexus is about to go down. Oh my goodness, we take a look at the workers killed. 23 workers who have been killed by this push. Such crazy, crazy timing. Those few Banshees and Marines and siege tanks really, really getting their full money worth, and we see the Banshees continuing to siege up at the natural. Oh man, it does look like the yellow one is in a really, really tough position. I was going to say tough pickle, but it's tough to be in a tough pickle. You are usually in a pickle, not a tough pickle. And the Banshee continuing to fire on the pylon, and we only have 2 Stalkers and a single sentry, so that Banshee finally falls. It does look like Tony Cheese may actually be able to waltz into the natural, and he accidentally fires on his own siege tank. That's cool too, I suppose. And oh man, the tiny army for the yellow one gets obliterated. A Hellion now on the way to deal with those Zealots. Such a tough position. Another Colossi is out, but range still hasn't even been started for that Colossi. Still just at 6 range. You need to get that range upgrade to keep the Colossi in the back. And Tony Cheese now pushing into the natural, just going to lock the yellow one into his base. And so far, it actually doesn't look like Tony Cheese has expanded. He's getting pretty low on minerals, so he may be able to just hold this out. If the yellow one can manage to hold out Tony Cheese, he may be able to break this push. Oh boy, this is interesting, to say the least. We have more and more Zealots being warped in as the siege tanks continue to creep forward, much like the single-player mission. I forget the name, but the one with the siege tanks and you creep forward, you know, the thing with the Majingan and the Bill Cosby. And the siege tank is actually just barely out of range for that gateway, even from all the way up there. So if the siege tanks continue creeping forward, they will be able to fire. And actually, Tony Cheese dropping a scan on his own units for some reason. And oh boy, the yellow one is in such a tough spot. He does have 2 Colossi, the Zealots and those Stalkers, but they will fall so quickly. Only 16 units against, what is that, 6 siege tanks completely sieged up, more than 24 Marines, up to 25 Marines, and a Banshee and Hellion for the flavor. And oh man, the siege tanks are now firing on the gateways. This pylon goes down. All of the buildings do have a couple of backup units, and oh boy, pulling the probes now. The yellow one knows this is it. He goes for broke, pushes forward. The Zealots taking a lot of fire. The siege tanks obliterating that Zealot line as the Marine DPS just continues to do a lot of damage. A lot of the Marines are taking fire from the Colossi, but the siege tanks manage to clear it all up, and the yellow one GG's out of game number 4. That does mean that Harvard wins the series 4-0. They take it in a sweep, and Brandeis is eliminated. So very great timing from Tony Cheese, is able to take the game. And yeah, that's just about it for this series. There are more games, for those of you who are interested, there are more games that Harvard did play against Brandeis. However, I am not going to cast those. I didn't cast those, and if I have a single viewer even watch this and see that I did say something like this, then I will be relatively satisfied. So if you, my lovely viewers, do decide that you want to see any more games between Harvard and Brandeis, then send me a message on YouTube or Twitter or whatever, and I would be happy to do that for you. But for now, because the series is over, I will in fact not cast those. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. That is Harvard taking series 4-0 in a sweep, and toodles.